My friend tried to kiss my partner for a TikTok challenge, but I'm the bad guy. My friend Jen and I have known each other since high school, which feels like a lifetime ago. We're both 22 now, and over the years, our friendship has seen its fair share of ups and downs. From cramming for exams together to sharing our deepest secrets during late-night talks, Jen was like a sister to me. We were inseparable, and everyone knew it. I always admired her confidence and how she could command attention in any room she walked into. Even back in school, she was the one everyone looked to for the latest trends, the coolest parties, and the most outrageous ideas. Jen's always had a flair for the dramatic. She's the type of person who can make even the most mundane activities seem exciting. It's no wonder she built up a massive following on Instagram. People are drawn to her like moths to a flame. Her feed is a carefully curated mix of glamorous selfies, exotic vacations, and snapshots of her enviable lifestyle. It wasn't long before brands started noticing her too, and soon, she was doing sponsored posts and living the influencer life that so many people dream of. A few months ago, Jen decided to try her hand at TikTok. She figured it was the next logical step in her social media career, and given her Instagram success, she was confident she'd blow up on TikTok too. Our entire friend group was supportive of her decision, though our opinions on TikTok itself varied. Some of us thought it was a fun way to pass the time, while others dismissed it as a platform for kids and cringe-worthy dance challenges. I was somewhere in the middle, indifferent but curious to see how Jen would use the platform. Jen's TikTok journey started off innocently enough. She posted videos of herself dancing, trying out viral makeup trends, and participating in lighthearted challenges. Her followers loved it, and her views quickly skyrocketed. She was getting the kind of attention she thrived on, and it wasn't long before TikTok brands started reaching out to collaborate with her. But as her content became more daring, I started noticing a shift in her behavior. She was constantly on the lookout for the next big challenge, the next way to outdo herself and keep her audience hooked. Then came the day that everything changed. Jen decided to participate in a new challenge that was making the rounds on TikTok, the Kiss Your Friend's Boyfriend and See Their Reaction challenge. I had no idea she was even considering something like this, and when I found out, it felt like the ground had been ripped out from under me. You see, Jen and my boyfriend, Matt, have always been close. They've known each other almost as long as we've been friends, and while I've always trusted them both, I never thought for a second that anything would happen between them. The day it happened, Matt had gone over to Jen's place to help her with something, I can't even remember what. She's always calling on him for favors, and he's the kind of guy who's too nice to say no. They were hanging out, talking, when out of nowhere, Jen leaned in and kissed him. Matt was completely caught off guard. He told me later that he was so shocked, he didn't even know how to react at first. But as soon as he processed what had happened, he pulled away and bolted out of her house. He called me immediately, his voice shaking with a mix of confusion and anger. When Matt first told me about the kiss, I was in disbelief. I couldn't wrap my head around the fact that Jen, my best friend, would do something like that. I thought maybe there was some mistake, some misunderstanding. But as the story unfolded, it became clear that there was no mistake. Jen had kissed my boyfriend, and she had done it for a TikTok challenge. She later called both of us to clear up the misunderstanding, explaining that it was all just a joke, a prank for her followers. But neither of us found it funny. I was furious. Not only had Jen crossed a line, but she had also put Matt in a position where he felt violated and betrayed. He told me he didn't know it was for a challenge until after the fact, and even then, it didn't make it any better. In his mind, and in mine, a kiss is a kiss, and doing it under the guise of a challenge didn't make it okay. The next few days were a blur of emotions. Matt and I decided that it was best to take a step back from Jen, at least for a while. We needed time to process what had happened and figure out what to do next. But when I told our friend group about our decision, I was met with a reaction that I never expected. Instead of supporting me, they sided with Jen. They told me that I was overreacting, that it was just a harmless prank, and that I should actually be grateful. Grateful? They said that Jen was doing me a favor by showing me how loyal Matt was. Their words stung. Here I was, reeling from what felt like a betrayal, and my so-called friends were telling me that I was the one in the wrong. They accused me of being overly sensitive, of letting my emotions get the best of me. They even suggested that I was breaking girl code by choosing my boyfriend over my friendship with Jen. It felt like I was being gaslighted, like they were trying to make me doubt my own feelings and instincts, but I wasn't about to let them manipulate me. I knew what had happened, and I knew how it made me feel. Jen had violated my trust, and no amount of, "it was just a joke," was going to change that. The more I thought about it, the angrier I became. This wasn't just about a kiss, it was about boundaries, respect, and consent. Jen had overstepped her bounds, and my friends were trying to minimize the impact of her actions. As I wrestled with my emotions, I turned to Reddit for advice. The response was overwhelming, and it helped me see the situation more clearly. People pointed out something that I hadn't fully considered before. What Jen did wasn't just inappropriate, it was assault. Matt hadn't consented to that kiss, and she had no right to put him in that position. I knew that our country had a long way to go when it came to understanding consent, especially when it involved men, but I wasn't going to let that stop me from standing up for what was right. After reading through all the comments and messages I received, I sat down with Matt for another heart-to-heart. I told him that I was fully committed to cutting Jen out of our lives, and that I would support him in whatever decision he made regarding her. I showed him my Reddit post and explained how people had helped me realize that he was a victim of assault. At first, he seemed hesitant to accept that label. He's always been the strong, silent type who doesn't like to make a fuss. But as we talked, he started to see things differently. He realized that what Jen had done wasn't just a prank, it was a violation of his personal boundaries. Matt told me that he needed some time to think about what steps he wanted to take next. But one thing was clear. He wanted to make sure that Jen wouldn't post the video she had taken of them on TikTok. The thought of that video being out there for the world to see was horrifying to both of us. It wasn't just about the kiss anymore, it was about our privacy, our dignity, and our right to control our own image. With Matt's support, I decided to confront our former friend group. I told them that I was done with Jen and anyone who defended her actions. I also made it clear that Matt didn't consent to the TikTok video being posted, and that if Jen went ahead with it, we were prepared to take legal action. Their response? A chorus of dismissive comments. Jen herself was the first to respond, saying that Matt's consent didn't matter because the video wasn't for commercial purposes. The others quickly chimed in, mocking us with lines like, "She doesn't need your toys' consent to post a video of hers." It was infuriating. The argument escalated quickly. I tried to explain that what Jen was doing was illegal, that she had no right to post that video without Matt's consent. But they didn't care. They were so wrapped up in their own bubble of social media drama that they couldn't see how serious this was. To them, it was just another TikTok video, another piece of content to get views and likes. But to us, it was a violation of our trust, our boundaries, and our relationship. After that confrontation, Matt and I were left with a decision to make. We both felt hurt and betrayed, not just by Jen but by the entire group of people we had considered friends for the past 6 years. They had shown their true colors, and it was clear that they valued clicks and views over our feelings and our friendship. We were done with them, but we also felt a burning need to set the record straight. That's when we came up with the idea of posting my original story on our social media accounts, tagging Jen and the others. It was a way of exposing them for what they really were, self-centered, disrespectful, and completely oblivious to the concept of consent. We knew it was a petty move, but after everything we'd been through, it felt like the only way to reclaim our narrative. We were tired of being the ones who had to keep quiet, who had to take the high road while they trampled all over our boundaries. But as much as we wanted to post that story, we were also hesitant. We knew that it would stir up even more drama, that it would put us at the center of a social media storm. Was it worth it? Would posting the story just drag us down to their level, or would it be a justified way of standing up for ourselves? It was a tough call, and we weren't sure what to do next. All we knew was that we were done playing nice, and we were ready to fight for our boundaries, our relationship, and our self-respect. In the end, we decided to hold off on posting the story, at least for now. We didn't want to make any rash decisions in the heat of the moment. Instead, we focused on what mattered most, each other. We knew that we had each other's backs, and that was what gave us the strength to move forward. We might have lost some friends along the way, but in the process, we had found something even more important: the courage to stand up for ourselves and the knowledge that we deserved better than what they had to offer. We're still figuring out what comes next. Maybe one day we'll share our story with the world, or maybe we'll keep it to ourselves as a reminder of the lessons we've learned. But one thing is for sure, we're not going to let anyone take advantage of us again. We're stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever to live our lives on our own terms, with the people who truly have our best interests at heart. As the days turned into weeks, Matt and I tried to settle into a new normal without our former friends. It wasn't easy. There were moments when I felt an overwhelming sense of loss, not just for the friendships I'd left behind, but for the innocence and trust that had been shattered. We had shared so many memories, and now it felt like they had all been tainted by what had happened. One night, as we were sitting on the couch watching a movie, Matt suddenly paused it and turned to me with a serious expression. "I've been thinking," he said, "I don't want Jen to get away with this. Not just for us, but for anyone else she might do this to. What if she tries this challenge on someone else's boyfriend? What if someone doesn't react the way I did?" His words hit me hard. I had been so focused on our own situation that I hadn't even considered the possibility that Jen might pull this stunt again, or that someone else might not be as strong or as quick to escape as Matt had been. The thought of another couple going through what we had made my blood boil. "We need to do something," I agreed, "but what?" "We already warned her, and she and the others just brushed us off." Matt leaned back and stared at the ceiling, deep in thought. After a few moments, he said, "What if we take this to the next level? Not just posting on social media, but really exposing her for what she's done. We could contact other influencers, people with bigger platforms, and tell them our story. If they pick it up, it could go viral. She wouldn't be able to hide behind her followers anymore." It was a bold idea, and the more I thought about it, the more it made sense. Jen had built her brand on the idea that she was this fun, carefree person who everyone wanted to be around. But if people knew the truth about her, if they saw the darker side of her antics, her reputation could crumble. We spent the next few days reaching out to influencers and bloggers who had covered similar stories in the past. We crafted careful messages, explaining what had happened and why we felt it was important to share our story. To our surprise, several of them responded with interest. They were appalled by Jen's behavior and wanted to help us get the word out. One of the influencers, a woman named Sasha who had over 1 million followers, was particularly interested. She had built her platform on exposing toxic behavior in the influencer world, and she saw this as another example of how social media could be used to harm rather than help. Sasha invited us to do an interview on her YouTube channel, where we could tell our story in our own words. Matt and I were nervous, but we knew this was our chance to make a difference. We filmed the interview in Sasha's studio, and she promised to edit it in a way that would get people talking. When the video went live, it was like a bomb had gone off. Within hours, it had thousands of views, and the comments section was flooded with support for us and outrage at Jen. People couldn't believe that someone would use a challenge as an excuse to violate someone else's boundaries, and they were vocal about it. Jen, of course, caught wind of the video almost immediately. She tried to do damage control, posting a tearful apology video on her TikTok where she claimed that she had never meant to hurt anyone and that it was all just a big misunderstanding. But the damage was done. People weren't buying it. The comments on her video were brutal, with many of her own followers turning against her. As the backlash grew, Jen's brand deals started to fall apart. Companies that had previously collaborated with her were now distancing themselves, not wanting to be associated with the controversy. She lost followers by the thousands, and her once thriving social media empire began to crumble. But the story didn't end there. As more people watched our interview, others started coming forward with their own stories about Jen. It turned out that this wasn't the first time she had crossed a line. A few other women shared their experiences of how Jen had tried to manipulate or sabotage their relationships, always under the guise of being just a friend. The more stories that came out, the clearer it became that Jen had a pattern of toxic behavior that went far beyond what she had done to us. The final nail in the coffin came when one of Jen's former close friends, someone she had known even longer than me, decided to speak out. This friend, who we'll call Laura, had drifted away from Jen years ago, but she had kept quiet about why, until now. In a tell-all blog post, Laura revealed that Jen had always been manipulative, using her charm and influence to get what she wanted, no matter who she hurt in the process. Laura's story was the tipping point. With so many people coming forward, Jen couldn't dismiss the accusations as just one person's vendetta. Eventually, Jen deleted all her social media accounts, disappearing from the public eye. The person who once lived for the attention and validation of her followers was now a ghost, her empire reduced to ashes. It was a bittersweet victory. Matt and I had succeeded in exposing her for who she really was, but the cost had been high. We had lost friends, faced public scrutiny, and had to relive the trauma of what she had done over and over again. But in the end, it was worth it. We had stood up for ourselves and for others who had been wronged by Jen. We had drawn a line in the sand and refused to let anyone cross it. And most importantly, we had come out of the experience stronger, both as individuals and as a couple. As life began to settle down, Matt and I found ourselves closer than ever. We had faced a storm together and come out the other side, and that bond was unbreakable. We started making plans for the future, talking about things we hadn't even considered before, moving in together, maybe even getting a dog. The experience had shown us what really mattered, and it wasn't the opinions of people who didn't have our best interests at heart. One day, as we were walking through the park, Matt turned to me with a smile. "You know," he said, "I think we should start our own YouTube channel. Not to expose anyone, but to share our story and help others who might be going through something similar. What do you think?" I smiled back, the idea filling me with excitement. "I think that's a great idea," I said. "We could turn this whole experience into something positive, something that makes a difference." And so, we did. Our channel started small, but it quickly gained a following. People appreciated our honesty, our willingness to share the good and the bad, and our commitment to helping others set boundaries and stand up for themselves. It was the beginning of a new chapter in our lives, one that was built on trust, respect, and the lessons we had learned. Looking back, I realized that what had started as a nightmare had ultimately led us to a better place. We had lost some things along the way, but what we had gained was far more valuable: each other, and the knowledge that we could face anything together. As for Jen, the last I heard, she had moved to a different city, trying to start fresh under a new identity. But the internet never forgets, and the scars of her actions would follow her wherever she went. In the end, she had no one to blame but herself. Life has a funny way of working out, and while I wouldn't wish what we went through on anyone, I'm grateful for the journey it took us on. It made us who we are today, stronger, wiser, and ready to take on whatever life throws our way. And so, with our new YouTube channel, our fresh start, and our unshakable bond, Matt and I look forward to the future. We know that there will be more challenges ahead, but we're not afraid. We've faced the worst and come out stronger, and now, there's nothing we can't handle together. As our YouTube channel gained traction, Matt and I found ourselves becoming accidental influencers. What started as a way to share our story and help others quickly blossomed into something much bigger. Our subscribers appreciated our candidness and the way we tackled difficult topics like boundaries, toxic relationships, and the importance of mental health. We were surprised by the outpouring of support, and soon, brands began to notice us too. Unlike Jen's story, ours was one of resilience, and that message resonated with people. One day, after filming a particularly emotional video about overcoming betrayal, Matt and I received an unexpected email. It was from a well-known production company that specialized in reality TV shows. They were impressed by our channel and believed our story had the potential to reach an even wider audience. They wanted to create a documentary series about our journey, how we turned a personal crisis into a platform for change. At first, we were hesitant. The idea of opening up our lives even more to the public was daunting. We had already shared so much, and the thought of cameras following us around 24/7 felt invasive. But the producers assured us that the focus would be on our message and the positive impact we were making. After several discussions, we decided to take the leap. If this could help even more people, it was worth the risk. Filming began a few weeks later. The crew was professional and respectful, but it was still an adjustment having them around. They documented everything, from our day-to-day routines to the behind-the-scenes moments of our YouTube channel. They also interviewed people from our past, including some former friends who had distanced themselves after the fallout with Jen. Hearing their perspectives added new layers to our story, and it was eye-opening to see how our situation had affected those around us in ways we hadn't realized. One of the most surprising moments came when we received a letter from someone we never expected to hear from again, Jen. She had found out about the documentary and wanted to meet with us, off camera, to apologize. The letter was long and full of remorse. She wrote about how the backlash from her actions had forced her to take a hard look at herself, and how she was now in therapy trying to understand why she had acted the way she did. Matt and I were torn. Part of us wanted to hear her out, to see if she was truly sorry. But another part of us was wary, not wanting to reopen old wounds. After much debate, we decided to meet with her. We agreed that the meeting would be private, no cameras, no recording, just the three of us in a neutral location. The day of the meeting, I was a bundle of nerves. We met Jen at a quiet cafe on the outskirts of the city. When she walked in, I barely recognized her. She looked different, more subdued, almost fragile. Gone was the confident, larger-than-life persona she had always projected. As she sat down, she immediately started to cry, and it was clear that this wasn't an act. Jen apologized profusely for everything she had done, acknowledging the pain she had caused. She explained that she had always struggled with insecurity, and that her need for attention had driven her to do things she wasn't proud of. She admitted that she had hurt people to make herself feel better, and that the backlash from our situation had been a wake-up call. She said that losing everything, her followers, her brand deals, her friends, had forced her to confront the person she had become, and she didn't like what she saw. Listening to her, I felt a mix of emotions, anger, sadness, and a strange sense of relief. It was clear that she was genuinely remorseful, but it didn't erase the hurt she had caused. Matt was quiet for most of the conversation, but when he finally spoke, he told Jen that while he appreciated her apology, trust was something that couldn't be easily rebuilt. He wished her well on her journey but made it clear that we needed to continue ours without her in our lives. Jen nodded, understanding that this was goodbye. As she left, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. It was closure, in a way, but it was also a reminder of how far we had come. We had faced down our demons, and now it was time to move forward. The documentary series premiered a few months later, and it was a hit. People connected with our story on a deep level, and it sparked conversations about boundaries, consent, and the toxic side of social media. We started receiving invitations to speak at events and even did a TEDx talk about our experiences. Our platform continued to grow, but we remained grounded, always remembering why we started this journey in the first place. One of the most rewarding aspects of our new life was the impact we had on others. We began receiving messages from people all over the world who had been inspired by our story to take control of their own lives, set boundaries, and leave toxic relationships behind. It was humbling to see how our experiences had empowered others, and it gave us a renewed sense of purpose. As our lives continued to evolve, Matt and I decided to take another big step. We got engaged. The proposal was simple and intimate, just the two of us at our favorite spot in the park where we had once talked about our future. It was a perfect moment, one that symbolized how far we had come together. The wedding was a small, private affair, with only our closest friends and family in attendance. We had learned the hard way that not everyone who walks into your life is meant to stay, and our guest list reflected that newfound wisdom. The documentary team, who had become close friends by this point, filmed the wedding as a final chapter to our story. It was a beautiful day, filled with love, laughter, and the joy of new beginnings. As we danced under the stars, surrounded by the people who truly cared about us, I felt a sense of peace and fulfillment that I hadn't known was possible. But our story didn't end there. The success of the documentary opened doors we hadn't even dreamed of. We were offered a book deal to write about our journey, which we accepted. Writing the book was a cathartic experience, allowing us to reflect on everything we had been through and how it had shaped us into the people we were today. The book, titled Boundaries: Our Journey from Betrayal to Empowerment, became a bestseller. It was praised for its honesty and for tackling difficult subjects with grace and empathy. We went on a book tour, where we met countless people who shared their own stories with us. Each one was a reminder of why we had chosen to speak out, and it reinforced our commitment to helping others. As the years passed, Matt and I continued to grow together, both personally and professionally. We expanded our YouTube channel into a full-fledged media company, producing content that focused on mental health, relationships, and self-empowerment. We also launched a nonprofit organization that provided resources and support to people in toxic relationships, helping them find their way to safety and healing. Life had taken us on a journey we never could have predicted, but in the end, it had brought us to a place of strength and purpose. We had turned our pain into power, our betrayal into a beacon of hope for others. And as we looked to the future, we knew that no matter what challenges came our way, we would face them together, with love, resilience, and an unwavering belief in ourselves. And so, our story continued, no longer defined by the past, but by the bright and limitless future we had created for ourselves, one step at a time.